Good morning and welcome to our third edition, if I've counted correctly, of Digital Finance World. And what we run in parallel are the Blockchain Enterprise Days. So for the next 2 days we will have a series of sessions, keynotes, panels. The Digital Finance World will run so for the keynotes in that room, and for the tracks which then run in parallel in this room and the room just next door. And the Blockchain Enterprise Days are running at the first floor. So just check the agenda, choose the room you prefer and session you prefer, and then we walk through all these topics. For the morning, we probably see a lot of people currently arriving, probably the Deutsche Bahn was late as usual. So we have 4 keynotes in the morning, starting with a short opening keynote by me, and then a keynote by Stefan Zündermann and Franz Wiedmann of KPMG, then one of Eleni Coulthard from Equinix, and then Danik van Kopenhagen from ABN AMRO. And then after the coffee break, we will have 2 parallel tracks, which I'll then introduce later on. We will display the housekeeping information during the breaks if you need some more information. The Wi-Fi information is just here. And with that, I think in the interest of time, I'll directly start. We always are keen to keep the agenda, or the timing of the agenda. So I'll try to remain on time for my keynote. My colleagues gave me a topic with the title New Technologies, New Challenges, New Opportunities in quotas for the finance industry, finding the right balance. And so maybe quickly introduce myself. I'm Martin Kuppinger. I think I forgot this. I'm Martin Kuppinger. I'm one of the founders of Kuppinger, acting as a principal analyst. So my role is, on one hand, guiding our research team, and on the other hand, I'm also quite regularly involved into our advisory projects. That is our job. And we focus, as an analyst company, we focus on information security, so we try to really be on the trends, but as you can see with topics such as Digital Finance World and blockchain, we go also beyond security, even while from what we do, a lot of the things are impacted by security, and I think also the world is impacted by security. I want to start with a pretty old quote, which still reads somewhat provocative. So Bill Gates said back in 1994, banking is necessary, banks are not. And we might say there's something in that, because when we look at, so 1994 to today is our 25 years. And he maybe was a little early with that statement, but when we look at what happened over the past years, we saw a lot of change in the market, with fintechs occurring, with a lot of other change, and the question is it, I would add a big question mark here, in the sense of banks are really not relevant, but I think the market is changing, and I think this is the important thing. I'm not sure about that, but one thing is for sure, and that is there's a massive change we are observing. And I think we all feel that in our daily life. So when we go back 10 years and look at how we did our payments 10 years ago, and when we look at how we do our usual payments today, that probably has changed for virtually every one of us. So I have to say, I felt I'm a believer in cash, and right now I do most of the transactions, even whatever €2 or something, I do it by card. And I'm old, even I do it. There is change in that. And I think that is something we need to understand. And when we look at what is happening in the finance industry, then we are in a situation where we see a lot of changes happening. And I think that probably the biggest impact of all, at the end, is not technology, it is economics. Specifically in the EU, with the low interest rates, that adds massively to the pressures financial organizations are feeling. And I think this is one of the biggest changes we are facing. Then we have this technology end of it. So we see more and more new technologies arriving, including the new market entrants, obviously, which then goes into the competitors part. We saw this first blockchain wave over the last few years. We currently we're a little bit in the phase of disillusion regarding blockchain, but as usual, some of the things will come back, some of the things will survive. There will be certain things we really see where blockchains are here to stay, or blockchain-based solutions are here to stay. I think that's probably better. We see the new competitors, and some of these are really big and really powerful. So Apple or Facebook with Libra, these are not just, so to speak, small fintech startups. These are very powerful players, and I think it's very clear, even if you're a very large bank, even if you're a company with a history of far north of 100 years, you need to take them honest. They are players that can, to some extent, are and will change the market. And then we have the regulation stuff. So we have, obviously these days, this discussion about PSD2 again. When we did our first digital finance world, PSD2 was pretty hot because it was around the first publication of the technical specifications. It's interesting to observe that how should I phrase it, that the regulators and the supervisory authorities were not strong enough to say, okay, let's really start with PSD2, getting it really effective now, so that they postpone some of their pressure. But at the end, it will happen, and I think there's no way to avoid it. So if you're not prepared yet, prepare for it. So there are changes, and when we look at technology, there are a number of technologies that impact this change. I picked 4 which I believe are specifically relevant to what is happening. One is the entire theme of AI and ML. It is something which helps us doing a lot of stuff better than we did before. So I think it's very, very apparent in the finance industry that, for instance, we see a lot of things around fraud detection. Learning from patterns, understanding what is happening here. So fraud detection, from my perspective, is one of the areas where we see an immediate and very significant impact of AI and ML. But we see it in many, many other areas. So one of my friends has a startup which is then looking more at analyzing sort of statements of people in communities around various companies to sort of make predictions around, or so to replace sort of the financial analysts, so to say, by the automated analysis of sort of the crowd intelligence. So there are many, many use cases around it. The other thing, obviously, is big data. So we not only have more data, we are creating more and more data, but we are also capable of dealing with the data in AI ML, but beyond that as well. We have the digital identity, and so our history as analysts is identity and access, so the digital identity. So I might be slightly biased on that, but I don't believe I am. I believe that the identity of the people and the way you deal with the people and with the digital identities is extremely important for your success in business. If you don't do it right, you will fail. It is essential that you deal with the people in a way they want to deal. I touch this in a minute again. And then we have all these changes around payment technologies, around cryptocurrencies, etc. So cryptocurrencies, yes, there's this stuff we have around Bitcoin, etc., which is a little questionable. But there are other things happening. So when we look at Facebook Libra and initiatives like that, it's apparent that there will be more tries and more changes around that. And again, it's interesting to see how this works out. Obviously, the the states and their regulations will try to affect some of the impact, but you can't stop certain kind of change. So we have these technology areas which are changing, and an important thing around that is, from my perspective, that we also look at what does it mean from the way we use data. So when we look at this entire data scene, we need to understand how we can treat data. And it starts, from my perspective, with understanding who owns the data, how can you gather that data, and what can you do with that data. And you need to understand that this means that your users will sometimes request different ways. So some will share data very willingly, others will be more reluctant, and you will need to get into sort of an agreement with them to get the data. So some want privacy, other want flexible sharing. We have the regulations piece when it comes to data. So we need to be obviously both careful and creative on how can we use which type of data, what can we make with the data, what can't we do with the data. It's also, the other thing is when we look at data, I think this is something when there's always this notion of many enterprises saying we want to get as much data as we can because data is the new gold, and if we have more gold we are more rich and powerful. I think we shouldn't underestimate a little bit the downside of, or one of the downsides of that, which means who owns the data has the liability. And we see currently a massive uptake of solutions around identifying which data do I have where. So understanding which data I own at all. So most organizations don't have a grip on where is the PII, where are other regulatory relevant data. They just don't know it because it's spread across so many, whatever, big data lakes and analytic solutions and databases and other types of solutions that it's hard to get a grip of it. One of the things which will be also interesting, and this is, I think, very much affecting many of the business cases, that is, to some extent, the situation that we currently have some of these very big players entering the market, so Apple, Facebook and others, who try to enter this market in some way. And I think it's an interesting point to every respect, not only data, to think about how can you really work with these. So you might say, okay, I just support Apple Pay and other stuff, but it might lead to you being just a dependent party of a big player. So obviously that's part of a regulated game. It's also a part of the business is doing it right, and maybe sometimes partnerships between peers are better if you can succeed on that than trying to work with the big ones. Data will be used more, it becomes autonomous, we need to be very careful around it. So data will play a very important role, and we need to think about how do we deal with data in this future. And we see a lot of change around data, and I think this is very important also for the way we can shape sort of the new business, the finance industry. And the other thing we really need to understand, and this is still, I think, one of the most, or one of the points where I still have the feeling that many businesses are not clear enough about is the role of identity and how it helps you in the business. My perspective is that you are always in a better position if you're the face to the customer or the consumer. So if you're the one who, so to speak, in big quota owns the consumer or customer, you're in a better position than when you're just delivering service in the back end. And I brought this up 2 years ago in my first keynote at the Digital Finance World, when it came to PSD2 and the third-party providers and all that stuff. Don't try to end up just as a third-party provider. My perspective back then was, my hint was, invest to provide the super cool front end for your users so that they do everything they want to do around finance through you. And accept that there will be other service providers behind. Don't try to lock them into your services. And I think when we look at how people think about identity, so identity in the mind of the customer, this is still very true. So people want to use different and flexible identities. So they don't want to re-register every time. And that's also true for everything you do around finance. It's totally boring if you need to register for a service. And that is where you lose the people. So how can you enable people to do stuff? And that's not easy with KYC requirements, to do stuff without permanently re-registering. There are a couple of interesting things happening there. When you look at all the stuff which is happening around blockchain ID, etc., there are solutions. They want to use the device of their choice, and I think the only thing we know is that we don't know what the device of choice will be in 2 or 3 years from now. So when we look at all the more or less, I think in general, unfriendly comments on the iPhone 11, I think there will be changes around that. Just making the things bigger and more cameras probably is not the future. Something will happen, we don't know what, but people will change and they want to use the device of choice. They want to have a choice around privacy and security. So some will just say okay, others will say okay, I'm very careful on that. We want to use this in integrations, payment, and commerce. This is something where obviously the finance business comes a bit later in much. We want to have seamless access. Again, that goes very much back to this one identity thing. So how can we simplify all these processes around KYC, etc.? And currently I believe it is one of the biggest hurdles in making this more convenient. And sometimes it's easier. I'm still a customer of a small Volkswagen Raiffeisenbank in Germany, which is good because the people know me, and so most of the things happen rather informal. It's more complicated if you don't know the people, and sometimes there's more work-life conversion. So this is changing, and we need to think about how can we serve the customer in a way to access all our services in a super simple way. And that is obviously the benefit of these other big ones or the others which come from modern UIs, modern device support, new approaches, and think about it, it's important for what is happening. So, to sum it up, and some 5 actions I propose, and there clearly will be more than that, for succeeding in the financial services market. So basically it's around innovation and it's around understanding the asset of the customer. So the first thing is technology. Innovate, really look at the new stuff, but don't innovate for the sake of innovation. I had, over the past years, I had a couple, not only a couple, several talks with people who said, we are looking for a blockchain use case. It's a total nonsense. Never look for a use case for a technology. If you have a business problem that can be solved better with the technology, fine, but not the other way around. So understand the technologies, that is the point. Understand the technologies, understand where they deliver a benefit, how you can solve your stuff better. That's what you need to do. Organization, I think one of the big challenges specifically for established organizations is to find a balance between being agile and on the other hand benefiting from all the experience. So banks are far better in KYC processes than small fintechs are, because they have a long history in regulations, etc. Build on that experience. So one of the biggest nonsense I've seen over the past years are digital factories, digital units, which are totally decoupled from the organization. They're sitting in Berlin in an ivory tower with no relation to reality and business. Frequently, only young people, no experience in. This is nonsense. This is one of the most idiotic things you can do. You need to find the integration, you need to integrate it and to change also the entire organization. People, empower your teams, so reward innovation, not preserving the old stuff. And so that's a long journey, but we need to do it. Customers, think outside in. Always think from your customer. That is the most important thing, for more or less. Think from your customer. What is what the customer wants? It's still the banks, they're saying, oh, the people don't like this OTP token anymore. What can we do? We do it, whatever, SMS out of band. Why not saying we allow everything which is regulatory, sort of acceptable, and from a security perspective acceptable as an authenticator? We are flexible because we want to support a customer, not saying what fits best into our existing technology infrastructure. But that's the common thinking we still see. Get rid of it. And look for partners. You will not succeed yourself. Build partnerships, but don't lose control. So be very careful about who are the right partners to work with, and what is the role of you in the partnership. And think about it very carefully, not because it's a partner with someone, but do it right. We have a lot of research on that. You will get access to the slides here, some samples of recent research around related topics to this keynote. With that, I'm at the end of my keynote, and thank you for your attention.